Hello folks, Typhoon Carter here, and I bring to you DPP Revival Invitational 2. This is play-ins round 1 space bracket between LNumbers and Qwily. So LNumbers is a RBY player actually, although LNumbers also go by Clark. Clark is no stranger to having picked up other tiers besides RBY fairly quickly. LNumbers recently picked up DPP, but again, he's like a relatively solid player who has like very good fundamentals and has actually done fairly well in DPP so far. And again, funnily enough, this is also not his first non-RBY venture. I believe LNumbers actually played UU back when Sword and Shield was the current generation back in Smogon Champions League a few years back. I think Freeze Eye might have actually had one of the videos covering one of his games, but way back then. But so he's just like a very solid player. Although I will say that he has had some issues with timer in the past. He's like the kind of guy who's going to really make full use of that timer. Really just try to think his moves out. Now his opponent on the other side though, Qwily, also going by Noah. I think that's just his Discord handle, but he's a very, very good Fairy Gens player, as Qwily actually did make Smogon Tour, I think, Smogon Tour playoffs a couple years ago, and has played in various gens, whether that's like, SM or SS, SB, name the Fairy Gens. Qwily has probably played it. He's also played some DPP on and off, although it's not really his primary tier. But funnily enough, Qwily and LNumbers were both on the same Roa PL team, both actually playing DPP, and if I recall, they actually had a fairly solid outing in there. And again, I would say that both players don't really build, but this should be an interesting matchup because I'm very interested to see what their camps have got for them in the builder. But needless to say though, this should be fun, and also it's, I believe, a German face-off, as both players are actually German, so fellow countrymen fighting each other fairly early on in play-ins, but it is single elimination. Let's jump right in. So we got Azalf lead into a Gyarados lead. Azalf should look to get rocks up here, and then Gyarados will probably try to break its sash, where that's like Waterfall, Payback, you name it, but doesn't tell us a whole lot just yet. Stealth Rock's here, Payback's here. Azalf's going to be down to 1 HP, and then turn 2 here. Interestingly enough, Azalf could explode here. Now, Qwily could easily have something like a Rotom in the back, so like, for LNumbers, there's the option of you can either explode here, or you can click T-Wave as a mid-ground if you think a Ghost is coming on Qwily's end, but we'll find out soon enough what that play is going to be. Nope, just got explode, just got play it simple, keep it simple. Gyarados into a Kingdra, and this Kingdra is not something that LNumbers wants to see, because if it is specs, Kingdra will completely decimate this Gyarados. However, Gyarados, I think without any prior chip damage, I think it does have a chance to survive Draco. But the other thing you have to be very careful here, if your LNumbers is just getting hit by Hidden Power Electric, because on specs that's a possible last move. Anyways, Tyranitar's gonna show up, Sand's gonna pop up, and Draco's there, going to do 52%. That is quite a lot there, and that is Life Orb, so it can't swap to a water move. And that Hydro Pump there actually killing T-Tar. That might have been a high roll there, but I think Qwily was more than content enough to try and just damage the T-Tar as much as possible. It tells me that Qwily probably has a Scarfer that can take care of it if it is DD Tar. And then LNumbers' team 4 turns in. This might be like a triple DD spam, or it could be Azalf, Gyarados, T-Tar, and then something like Mix Knight, for example. But we'll find out soon enough. Lucario, that is probably CM. That is a bit of a new thing that's been popping up these last couple years, or not couple years, sorry, but ever since the sleep ban kicked in. CM Lucario, usually it's just gonna run Aura Sphere, Vacuum Wave, and then one of Shadow Ball, Dark Pulse, could even run Hidden Power Ice. There's quite a few variations you can do here, and usually the reason CM Lucario has been popping up on these hyper offenses, it's a really good way to get around something like Scarf Magneton that thinks it can, you know, trap it. But Rome's gonna show up here, going to get the trick. Lucario is now faster. That's a Dark Pulse question. Is this 279 Luke or is this a 306? But regardless, Metagross has a free setup opportunity here. LNumbers really using a lot of timer here. And Metagross has got agility up, could obviously force a boom, but Meteor Mash is going to do quite a lot there. Waterfall's there, not going to quite kill, but question is... Oh, that is a really bad crit to have, and a Mash Raise just to add insult to injury. And LNumbers now is forced to lose his Metagross for nothing. And Kingdra is going to be a follow-up into Lucario here, and Lucario should be able to get an Aura Sphere off. And now D-Knight is going to show up. And D-Knight here going to set up. Interesting endgame scenario here. So, this, depending on what LNumbers' D-Knight set is. Now, if for some reason it's Scarf D-Knight of 284, which, again, that's something that John has ran in the past. This LNumbers could get out of this, you know, pretty easily. If it's Mixed Knight, I think a crit E-Speed would be LNumbers' best out right now against this boosted Dragon Dance Dragonite here. But for Noah, you're just if you're him, you're clicking Outrage here because you know that Lucario is Choice Lock. You don't have a lot going, no crit there. Probably gonna get outraged. And Dragonite's got one attack left. And this might be Jolly DD Knight, but it could be 306 Lucario. That D-Knight is going to go down. Tyranitar is the last on Qwily's end. Aura Sphere's there. Oh, nicely done. Chople Berry's gonna kick in, and Qwily is going to take this game 1. So, deceptively tight end game there. As for much of the game, LNumbers was severely behind. And Chople T-Tar is just a really smart metagame item choice in general, especially with the sleep ban being in full effect, and we really see how you know, Spore and whatnot being banned has really given T-Tar a bit more leeway to run items like Chople Berry to kind of compensate for its 4x fighting weakness, so that, you know, T-Tar's bulk can really shine through here. And from what I could tell here, that Tyranitar was likely maybe a mixed T-Tar, or it was probably a mixed T-Tar. It could also have been a DD T-Tar, which would not be entirely unplausible. I think you know, both players, their teams are relatively standard here. You know, like Qwily with like a classic blue offense, or like not quite. Well, okay, I guess it is. Oh yeah, it actually is straight up blue offense here with the Rotom Wash, because, like, you know, because every Mon has, like, you know, a color blue in its cover scheme. But anyways, so, you know, like having the double water core to kind of just overload, you know, those water checks, which is a tried and true strat in DPP. Because, as we always like to joke, you know, water resists are not real in DPP, but you really see it in full effect here, like, you know, the Gyarados and then the Kingdra kind of forcing the issue, especially the Kingdra being able to force the issue early on, taking out several key pieces here. Although I think if that Metagross doesn't get that Mash crit, maybe, you know, the Gyarados could take it out, and then, you know, LNumbers would still have a Gyarados to keep in check. Although personally, I would usually like to have like a Latias somewhere, like as a healing wisher, but I get why you might not be able to fit it. But regardless though, Noah is on match point, and LNumbers back against the rope. How's he going to respond? We got a game 2 here. So we got Jirachi lead and a Skarm lead. This does not tell us a whole lot, but LNumbers could be bringing Skarm offense, or like hyper offense, or just stall. Neoqueen's gonna show up, so yeah, we're gonna find out real fast. And nice swap into Neoqueen to force the Jirachi to eat Black Sludge damage, although it is Choice Lock now, which could be quite inconvenient. And Rose is gonna show up on Qwily's end, so doesn't tell us a whole lot, but back Rose is like a half decent water check. Spikes are gonna show up here. Again, nothing too surprising on LNumbers' end. Now, if I see this like a CM Clef, I would think that usually you would want like maybe a second fat blob, like maybe like a Milotic can kind of be that, but I would also expect probably another steal on LNumbers' end, and maybe a Scarf Tar could totally be plausible as well. There's like a few ways you go about it, but Heatran's gonna show up. Qwily going into this. Oh, nice Flash Fire boost there. That could just be a Roar Tran, but Vaporeon's gonna show up. I believe this is a style of team that Piteous actually used in SPL, so I think there's probably a Jirachi in the back, if I remember the 6 correctly. There's a huge Surf there, not gonna quite do enough, but that Vaporeon is completely trapped, so Noah off to a fast start against a stall team, and Vaporeon being the water resist of choice is actually really smart here, because like, you know, why have to worry about, you know, something like Specs Me completely overwhelming you when something like Vaporeon can completely neutralize that. And then you have the Nidoqueen as great synergy here to get rid of T-Spikes, which Vaporeon completely hates. But again, I would expect Noah to probably have a Swampert in the back. That's typically what you'd expect, maybe a Rotom, but a lot of crunch action going here. And this Tyranitar eating 40%, that is probably a Scarf Tar perhaps, but that could just be a 243 Tar. But based on how LNumbers is playing this, I am inclined to think that, you know, it probably was Scarf, but T-Tar just kind of, yeah, LNumbers just kind of letting that go, which is an interesting decision. And Hinpar's there, that might be a Hinpar. Oh no, that might be Hinpar fighting. So Qwily's gonna come in there, and yep, that's a Hinpar fighting from Rotom. Yeah, really good way to try to get around T-Tar, thinking that I could Pursuit Trap you. And Shadow Ball's here. And that might be a Hinpar Ice, could also be Hinpar Fire, does not tell us a whole lot. But Clef is going to show up here, going to try and handle this Rose. But CM Clef also can't necessarily do a whole lot. And we're going to see CM here, and Qwily bringing Latias. That's either a Roar Lati or that's his own CM Lati. But oh, it's offensive Lati, which actually makes sense. And LNumbers there, I really don't know about that turn there. I get what, because yeah, I get you're trying to go for broke, but what I don't like here is the fact that one, it showed no recovery whatsoever, right? So the Latias came in, it took sand damage, and then usually on these Rose Tran teams, and then there's probably a Pert in the back too, and then maybe a T-Tar rounded out perhaps. Obviously that might not be the case, right? The issue here I have is that one, you have a Nidoqueen, which could actually absorb the trick because Jirachi already tricked the Scarf earlier, and if you do that, you know, the Latias is just eating up chip damage for nothing. And then, you know, you could try to force Qwily has to switch out anyways, because like you could safely try to EQ, try to nail something along the way. So I feel like this for LNumbers might be a game losing move, because the CM Clef was your meal ticket out of here. And Rain Dance is here. And why is he staying in? Okay, yeah, and you cleared up sand here, so that's actually really good. And then Suicune here, fantastic synergy, love to see it. And then Rain boosted Surf, going to take that Nidoqueen out, was probably trying to Roar. Again, nothing too surprising. And Shadow Ball's here, so that is Boltless Rotom. It was probably sub 2 attacks, and LNumbers is going to just, you know, forfeit, and Qwily is going to move on in space bracket. So well played by Noah there, as he's gonna move on. And again, thank you for playing LNumbers. It was nice to at least have you swing by, but as for who Qwily's gonna face, Qwily is going to face the winner of Frudazi versus Balaj Blast, I think that's how you pronounce it. But that is not the only set we have for today. But before I move on to that second set, if you guys are enjoying these videos, like, comment, subscribe, and consider donating to DPP Revival Invitational 2's prize pool, as we're currently sitting at $300 at the time I'm recording this. This might change, who knows. Donation link will be in the description below, as per usual, and in our Discord server. But That being said though, we do have a second set to cover in Space Bracket as well. So we got Sossa versus Bynum. Sossa going by No Quiero Bajar. I probably horribly butchered that, but Sossa, I don't know, he has a bazillion alt names, and people think I'm bad for doing that. Like, no, Sossa, you're way worse than me on that aspect. But anyways, as I kind of talked a little bit about this matchup on stream a while back when, you know, pairings were revealed. Sossa, again, he's kind of an up-and-coming player, somebody who plays a fair bit of the old gens, just a very good all-round Brazilian player. I've actually we've covered him more than a few times on his channel. I think Sossa is a player who could really make some noise in play-ins bracket, as somebody who could go real far. He's gone far in a couple tournaments before, but I think the biggest thing for Sossa is going to be, you know, maintaining composure and just, you know, being able to close out those end games, because I think this is, if he can get that together, I think he can get real far. As for his opponent on the other side, Bynum. Bynum's been a guy who's been quietly laddering DPP for years and has been like just a generally solid player, who really started getting into the tournaments again relatively recently to some modest success. But, you know, he kind of fit the profile of somebody that we felt would belong in play-ins. And needless to say, though, should be a fun matchup here. And let's jump right in. So, we got Tyranitar lead into an Azelf lead. So, Azelf should just get rocks up. Oh, just got U-turn instead. Interesting. And T-Tar, that might have been a Scarf T-Tar, but no, that is defensive T-Tar. That's actually quite interesting to see that. And Metagross has got a trick here. Trick Iron Ball into a Fori. And Fori is going to at least eating permanent chip damage, and really nice play from Bynum there to get the Tyranitar in on the anticipated T-Spikes. And Sossa's team, this could be, I believe, a you know, Fori stall. I would expect there to be a Clef in the back, probably a Jirachi could also have a Zap in the back. There's quite a few ways that you could actually round this 6 out. You probably also still want a Latias because, you know, Infernape kind of has a field day against these style of teams. But needless to say though, Tyranitar doesn't really want to see this Milotic. Azelf here, oh, this might be a CB Azelf or a Scarf Azelf, could friend a Boom here or a Trick. Fori's gonna show up here, just go U-turn again. So Bynum doing a good job kind of holding off on pulling the trigger here. And Tyranitar could friend a Fire Punch or Fire Blast, but no, just got played straight, just got Crunch here. So an interesting team from Bynum. And yep, there's a Fire Blast. It's a mixed T-Tar. This might be 240 free T-Tar. You know, with like Hasty Nature or something. Again, if you're running Azelf, that's normally what you want to run. Reminds me of something similar that I'd probably have ran myself, although it's with Infernape. Latias going to perhaps try to friend a Trick here, but going to draw the Jirachi out and into a Metagross. That is the exact kind of matchup that Bynum wants to see, but interesting enough to actually pivot out. And Tyranitar's gonna show up here. There's the Trick. Trick's the choice specs, but T-Tar could get a free pursuit off here. And oh, interestingly enough, Trick Recover. That's actually a really cool set that I like on Latias. I'm a big fan, but Surf probably Draco and then Latias, or sorry, Clef on Sossa's end is gonna be able to threaten a knock on just about anything that comes in, especially with T-Spikes. That's gonna be kind of a problem here. And Metagross here, Seismic Tosses going to take decent amounts of damage. Surprised Sossa didn't just knock there. I would probably knock, but hey, that's just me. Oh, nice T-Punch there. This might be a bulky invested Metagross, and tells me that Bynum's team might be a little bit soft in the DD Gyarados if he has to run T-Punch on meta. Stealth Rocks here, and just gotta get Gyro Balled here. Yeah, so the Iron Ball actually working out in Fori's favor as it's powered up even stronger, and Fori is going to be able to get the spin off from the looks of it, and SD Scizor perhaps is what Bynum's got going here. Yeah, this team's a little bit soft in the waters, but you know, if you're Bynum here, I think you need to... Oh, go SD here. This might be Akaberry, but just gotta swap out into Latias into this Jirachi. Jirachi's got Fire Punch here. Gotta get the Serene Grace boosted burn. And that Latias is now on a permanent timer, but that does mean that Latias won't have to worry about, you know, getting parried. So a bit of a double-edged sword there. And still swapping out there, so yeah, some defensive T-Tars don't run a pursuit, which is something worth noting. And Meteor Mash is here into Milotic, and that Milotic is faster, which makes sense. Milotic usually ran about 200 speed, just going to explode here on the Milo. And T-Tar's gonna show up here, and Azelf on its last legs, and that T-Tar's gonna be taken out. So how is... But that Jirachi is still a huge problem for Bynum. Huge crit though, and that is a Wish Protect Jirachi, which is probably the last thing that, you know, Bynum wanted to see. Iron Head's here. Oh, this might be free attacks Wish as well. That's also totally plausible. And Clef is just going to be able to disable this Latias pretty safely for that matter too. Like, knock is super free. Dragon Pulse is here, not gonna do a whole lot. So yeah, interesting set from Bynum there. As per his last, I expect there to probably be a Gyarados, like maybe a second floater is totally possible. Or like some sort of speed control like a Rotom, you could totally do that. And knocks off there finally. And Clef is gonna be right back up to full, and this Latias now losing 16% each turn. And Wish is here. And Surfs again, and yeah, like there's just... Bynum's pretty much forced to recover almost every time, because you look at the damage, it's doing 33% to Latias, and then you factor in the 16%, that's almost 50% right there. Just gone because of knockoffs' effects, and that just shows how important lefties are. So Bynum might be trying to play for a last Pokemon Scizor situation, and Mamoswine's the last here, which is actually interesting. An interesting sub attempt there too. I suppose like you want to block a Jirachi double, but you're already on such a bad timer here. EQ's there, and with Protect though, that is a terrible situation for Bynum to be a part of, because I highly doubt EQ is going to do enough to Clef, especially with all this Protect loading up here. Although one thing, and yeah, like that you kind of see how like these teams kind of compensate for their Infernape weakness. Oh, jeez, that normally does not kill, but that felt completely unforced from Sossa. You did not have to do this. You just had to wish up, right? Like, you just had to Protect with Clef, let Toxic Spikes do the work. Like, you already did the hard part, getting the Toxic Spikes up. It's doing its job, right? If you're getting at least 2 Pokemon weak to T-Spikes, that is generally considered good mileage. Yeah, you didn't have to do this or risk a crit. Like, you could Protect and then wish and then... Okay, yeah, it is doing quite a lot though, and... Oh man, Protects again. EQ's here. And yeah, Sossa's probably just gonna continue this loop a little bit longer, and... I mean, if you have like something like a Hinpar Fire Latias as your last, then that's one way you can kind of get out of this whole Scizor situation. Protects once more. Wishes again, and 1%. Yeah, you got a wish up here. Wishes up here. Alright, like, well, it's down to Scizor versus Clef. And it's, we got a game on our hands. SD's up here, and just got S-Toss. So this might not be Roost Scizor, interestingly enough. Oh, okay. Jeez, yeah, if that was Roost Scizor, then I think Sossa would have been in bigger trouble, but... Oh, Mag's just gonna get the job done here. And Sossa's gonna win this game 1. And, oh man. Yeah, this feels like a moment where, like, Sossa almost let this get away from him, but again, like, I guess he realized, either... Yeah, because I would probably not ruled out, you know, Roost on SD Sizz, but, like, again, I mean, if it's on Azelf offense, I suppose that makes sense, so I don't... But yeah, man. Yeah, really cutting it close there, but it's okay. It's a best of 3 for a reason, and we still have a series to play. So, I'll comment more on that later. We got game 2 here into Bronzong versus a Starmie lead, and Starmie's just gonna trick right off the bat, and gotta get this Flame Orb off, and Bynum is going to be crippled by Flame Orb. So trick Flame Orb Starmie, something that I know PDC and Osgood messed around with a fair bit, and Jirachi's gonna show up here. And Hydro Pump's gonna do a fair bit. Yeah, Hydro Pump, you know, defensive Starmie has been a relatively newer thing, and the Jirachi here, you know, just CMing up. This might tell us that there's probably a Pursuiter in the back, and Blissy's gonna show up. And look at that, like 32% on the Bliss here. Blissy's just got S-Toss, but Bronzong could obviously explode if he so desires. I mean, if I'm Bynum, I would consider exploding here because that Bronzong's out perma timer anyways. Yep, there's the explosion, and Sossa reads this, so he's off to a good start here, but Heatran is going to be a huge threat. Protects here, and Fire Blast is, again, this could be Taunt Tran, a triple steel structure from Bynum. You gotta have a Laddie in the back. Oh, that is not what Sossa wants to see. Wait. And yep, there's the taunt. That is not what you really want to see, but Sossa sees this coming. Yeah, you didn't have to go Starmie there. You could have gone Blissey, and then even if you ate a crit to the face, I mean, you'd be okay, but... I mean, obviously, hindsight's 20/20, but, yeah, not a good start here if you're Sossa. But Starmie is gonna show up on Bynum's end, and we'll probably be able to get a spin off, perhaps. And Scizor is going to show up on Sossa's end. This might be one of those double win condition teams that I know Ladon was working on a while back. And oh no, it's just a Scarf Scizor just gonna get rid of that Starmie. Bynum was obviously not prepared for that. And Mamoswine's gonna show up again. Another Mamoswine, interesting. Yeah, that is the most Mamoswines I've seen in one series. And Breloom's going to have its Toxic Orb activate. That huge... Sossa is just getting nothing this game. And Bynum getting everything to go his way. And that Scizor's got a superpower there. I don't... Yeah, I mean, sure. But this Mamoswine is probably going to be able to win the game with the way this game has gone. Subs up here, trying to fish for a Mash Miss, and gets that. Yeah, that has to be incredibly frustrating if you're Sossa. And this Mamoswine will just be able to click EQ and win the game. And crit, another crit, sure, why not? I mean, yeah, I have no words. I'm at a loss for words here, and that Softbow not gonna save you. And Ice Fang's here trying to play around, you know, Softbow PP, I suppose, but EQs once more. Stealth Rock's here, that might nab a KO. Not quite, but Sossa on his last legs with that Blissey, trying to get a freeze, a flinch or something with that Ice Fang. And EQ's there in crit range, not gonna get that. You might want to Ice Fang again. Softbows again, now has to try to get a freeze, a flinch, and that is a 101 sub Mammo. And that's going to do 46% into a Blissey. Blissey just kind of hanging on for dear life. And 8 EQs versus 9 soft boils. So either way, you're not really in a great spot if you are Sossa. Oh, there's the Flamethrower. Interestingly enough, that is probably for opposing SD Scizor, which makes sense on Blissey. Yeah, 2 attacks Blissey has kind of seen more use ever since the end of last year, or like rather during Invitational. Mamoswine going to just not quite take out this Blissey, actually. So, yeah, this Blissey is just an absolute cockroach right now. I'm going to speed this up as spoils here. Ice Fangs again, trying to get a flinch. And that Mamoswine going to get burned, actually. So, okay. Oh, wait, no, it can heal. It can trick into Healing Wish here. That's probably what I would do here if you're Bynum. Choice Scarfs here. Oh, interestingly enough, going to just get the Draco Meteor off, and no freeze. That second might do the trick. There's the Healing Wish. There's the Mamoswine right back up the full. And now Sossa has to fish for another, but could just explode here with Heatran. That is Flash Fire boosted. And that's going to do 39% to Blissey, and that's going to be on a perma timer here. If Bynum has Taunt, or rather Explosion, you need to click it now, but just got Taunt here, that's going to work as well. And that Blissey is right in, you know, EQ range for a KO. And that should be the game, barring some unfortunate hacks. Yeah, so Bynum's gonna tie this up 1-1. That was a very hectic game too, but we have a rubber match to settle here. And yeah, game 3. So winner moves on, loser goes home. Tyranitar into Empoleon lead. Empoleon gonna get rocks up. So yeah, classic handshake. Surfs here into T-Tar. T-Tar got EQ here. Not quite in Torrent range, and that's a defensive Empoleon versus a defensive T-Tar, so this could be a long game. But we'll find out soon enough. Both players actually protecting here, so that's Tech, and then that's Crunch. There's a Scarm. Is that a Shed Scarm? We're going to find out soon enough. It is, and Scarm's going to show up on Bynum's end, so we have a Stall Mirror, perhaps, on our hands. It spikes up here. Yeah, so just spikes flying around. Left, right, and center here. And spikes up once more, and whirlwinds here into a Magnezone, but that Magnezone's not going to do anything for Bynum unless he has Himpar Ice here, which he does not, into this incoming Gliscor. And Gliscor obviously got friend to EQ here, and Clef is going to show up. Go get Ice Fang. Go get frozen. That is not what Bynum wants to see in this game 3. And that is a... yeah, off to a brutal start here. If this Clef remains frozen here, like, this game could be over very quickly for Bynum. So he needs to look for opportunities to get the health back up. And that Latias eating that knockoff was completely terrible. That is not what you want to see here. Especially because, one, it's a sand game, so your longevity is already quite limited. And huge knockoff there. And Sossa might... yeah, this might actually end much faster than you might anticipate here. One more. Nope, it's still frozen. It's frozen again. So, yeah, it's a 6v5 already, and that is going to be incredibly hard for Bynum to overcome. Especially because, like, one, you're already playing hand... if you lost your Clef just, like, 20 turns into a game, you're already playing on a handicap here. And yeah, you're getting some nice whirlwind damage here, but again, like, Clef can sometimes just solo teams. And a lot of times for stall teams, the only thing standing between an opposing Clef is your own Clef. And that's a hidden power fire from the looks of it. And that Empoleon's got to heal right back up, got to protect here. Into a Brave Bird, and again, Empoleon could die the next time it comes in. And Quagsire is the last on Bynum's end. Surf's here, so that's going to do nothing, but Empoleon could protect here. But no, that Empoleon's going to be effectively dead unless Sossa has a spinner. And Roos is up here, and yeah, I mean, both players have full hazards up on the field. And Latias is probably going to have to roost here. Clef's going to show up here. Question is, does this Clef have Encore or something along those lines? If Sossa has it, then that could be a huge trump card. S-Toss is here. Latias gonna have to recover. If you have an Encore, you better show it now. Yep, there's the Encore. If it wasn't that, a Snatch was another possible option. But again, Snatch a bit more uncommon on Clef in general, but we've seen it used a handful of times here and there. Roos is here. S-Toss is down. And this Scarm kind of on a ticking timer here. And again, I'm not sure how Bynum's gonna win this. I mean, yeah, that CM Lati could be one way to win. The other way you could try to get out of this is trying to PB stall the Encore, but that's a task easier said than done. And Latias here going to perhaps spreading a T-Wave. But, oh, that hidden power fire or fighting, either one. It might be hidden power fighting to cover the T-Tar switch. That is a bit of a newer innovation that we've seen in DPP, like Latias running HP fight just so that you can punch past T-Tar a little bit easier, especially on CM sets. Protects here, and also cleft by proxy. And Whirlwind, oh, huge Toxic there. Now that T-Tar is permanently on a timer. And Toxic is just completely lethal for Bynum's team because everything except for Skarm is affected by Toxic. And if that Skarm goes down, you're gonna have to wave the white flag if you're Bynum. Latias gonna show up here. Ice Fang's here. Huge crit, doing 46%. So that's like a very defensive Gliscor. Oh! That Gliscor, that Latias is actually really slow. That is... What? Why is this Latias slower than Gliscor? This isn't defensive Lati. Oh, this might be... No, it's not Roar Lati either. That is completely baffling to me of a decision to make, like, spread-wise in the builder. Like, it should not be slower than Gliscor. Either that or Bynum was not expecting max speed Gliscor. But again, Ice Punch is here, and Sossa was probably doing that because he's okay with the Freeze Claws kicking in on Clef, but Skarm is quite healthy here and will threaten a Toxic, and Skarm is going to come in. Yeah, I mean, if you're Sossa, you could try to get some free Whirlwinds off, because if you know, rack up a couple, then, you know, you're in business, but this Gliscor gonna be able to taunt the entirety of Bynum's team. Can't Whirlwind there. Quagsire is quite low now at 50%. Oh, huge Ice Fang miss, but Sossa could get another taunt off here. But Skarm's gonna come in here and recovers again, and Skarm's gonna come in. Is it gonna get Whirlwinded? Nice Whirlwind there into the Quagsire. I would Whirlwind again if I'm Sossa. Skarm's gonna get Whirlwinded again, and Whirlwinds once more into T-Tar. That is not what Bynum wants to see, and that T-Tar is effectively dead. And Skarm down to getting a death drop here. That is kind of not what you want to see, and could get hit with a Toxic here, so a bit of a mind game. Is Sossa gonna do it again? Oh, okay, catches a bit of a break there. Roos is up, and gonna eat the Whirlwind up, and Empoleon's gonna go down, so Bynum will not get 6-0'd at the very least if he ends up losing this game. And that is a Hidden Power Fire instead, so not what Bynum was expecting. And the game's over because Skarm can just Toxic this Quagsire, but Dragon Pulse will also do the job here. And Sossa is going to win this series 2-1 versus Bynum. Bynum, thank you for playing, but man, what a messy series from both players. And as for who Sossa is going to play, Sossa is going to play the winner of Java versus Batty. If you haven't watched that series, go check that out for round 2. And yeah, nicely done from Sossa. I think that game 1 was probably the worst, like in terms of like pure playing. I think game 1 was probably Sossa at his quote-unquote weakest of the free games play. I thought Sossa actually played game 2 reasonably well, despite the terrible circumstances that he had to fight through. And then game 3 was just like, you know, he recognized that he had an advantage and made sure to actually keep that advantage and actually closed out the end game. So, you know, great stuff from Sossa being able to, you know, finish the job there. And I'm very interested to see how his next series will go. And once again, if you guys enjoyed these videos, like, comment, subscribe, and consider donating to DPP Revival Invitational 2's prize pool. We are currently sitting at $300. We would love to hit a $1,000 prize pool by the end of this tournament. And yeah, I will see you guys next time.